Appreciate everybody working with us through the schedule and everything back to a normal week prep, but with another Saturday game coming off of a Saturday game, we got to adjust a little bit on the fly. But wanted to start out and just recognize our team. Really proud of our team. We set out on a goal at the beginning of training camp to hopefully have a chance to become NFC North champions. So to have accomplished that goal. The way we did it obviously is one thing to talk about, but just over the course of the whole season, dealing with adversity that shows up in different ways throughout the season. Just proud of our team for being able to overcome again and find a way to win that football game and ultimately the division. Definitely want to take a moment and thank the Wilf family, all the support that we get from our great ownership to do this job on a daily basis. I want to thank Kwesi, our coaching staff, and then obviously our players. It's been a collective effort from day one here, daily. People working really, really hard in a lot of facets of our building to try to get goal number one accomplished. And there's a lot of football left and a lot of the goals that we have out in front of us. Starts with playing good football this week against a really good team. And definitely want to, once again, highlight our fans, not only sticking with us through some real bad football early on the other day, but being a major part of, providing the energy and the juice throughout that second half to help will us to, overcome that kind of deficit. Doesn't happen without them as well in our great home environment. So with that, turn it over to you guys.
Okay, we'll go Chris, Dave, and then Kevin.
Yeah. Hey, Kevin, how you doing today?
Hey, Chris.
Good to see you. Just wanted to kind of get a feel for what the last 2 days have been for you since, the greatest NFL comeback ever. Who have you heard from? Have you gotten any texts or calls from interesting people or what have you?
Yeah. They've been outside of being pretty exhausted post game and really taking some time to kind of reflect on some both positives that come with a comeback like that. That's, a record-setting type comeback, but the negatives that I've looked pretty closely at, to see what we could have done as coaches to help avoid such a deficit early on and in that first half. I did hear from some people, a lot of the mentors and people that have helped shape my, football journey and culture. I was able to hear from all of them in some capacity, text messages of support, a couple phone calls here and there. So coaches know that how much they mean to me and how much I've relied on them, even, recently going back to, a couple, week in and week out of the regular season and being at your first year as a head coach in this league, but also going back beyond that to some of those great people who have helped shape, kind of, what's allowed me to feel comfortable, really attacking this in year one.
Kevin, I know you talked a lot about your team's resiliency, but I'm also wondering that sort of in the context of today's NFL, what makes a comeback like that possible in just one barely over a quarter?
Yeah, Dave, I think it's first and foremost, you got to have it in your team from just a skill set standpoint, how you're going to have to play that game. When you think about offensively, you have to be able to generate some explosives. You got to steal some yardage in a hurry. You got to be able to hold up front enough to allow Kirk to do some of the special things he did throwing the football. And then you got to be able to score touchdowns when you get in the red zone. And I think that was a huge part of it as well from an offensive standpoint. Defensively, to only give up, the 3 points and some of the pressures, some of the things dynamically we did from some of our best players making critical plays in some big moments, and then other guys that have really stepped up for us in some roles this year. But to not have it go really 5 straight possessions, there were some moments there, either turnover there in the third quarter or fourth quarter, whatever it was, and then needing to get the ball back one last time, needing to get the ball back in overtime defensively, and special teams doing their part. So I think it just highlighted in a short amount of time, Dave, our team's ability to come together and find a way when things got very difficult, and they were as difficult as they've been all season, and we had to look inward in a short amount of time and decide what we were really going to be about. for the remainder of that day, and we were able to get it done.
Yeah, Kevin, I'm wondering how much time you spent thinking about sort of balancing your appreciation for what happened and how rare it was versus, I guess, not having it be the high point of the season, knowing how much more could potentially be coming. And is that something you've spent time thinking about? And if so, how do you intend to attack that this week?
Yeah, Kevin, honestly, what I've spent the majority of my time thinking about is kind of what put us in that situation in the first place, and the role that I played in that, and more importantly, what I need to do better for our team, both clearly, getting our team in a place where we can execute better early on, do the little things better early on in games to not cause ourselves to not have a chance to win a football game. We got to, get back to, emphasizing details and then some of the things we quite honestly did last week. But we got to now look at kind of an accountability, both as players and coaches, to making sure that we hold ourselves to that standard, from the jump, and not need to have a record-setting type comeback to find a way to get a win. Although it's great, and we know we've done that, maybe not at the pace of needing 39 points and a half, but we've done that this year. Where we've been able to find ways to win games collectively as a team, that I think helped us understand that it was possible regardless of the number the other day. But also at the same time, knowing where we're hopefully headed, we're going to have to play better football throughout that game to not set ourselves back the way we did, and really give ourselves a chance to win it by not trying to actively lose the game with some bad football early on. And that's what I've been really spending some time on, and really trying to look very closely at where we're at as a team in all three phases. Where are the potential areas of the game that we must address and improve, and then where are other things that may have been an outlier early on in that game that we were just able to overcome, and hopefully we don't run into some of those things again.
So real quick, you mentioned accountability. What do you mean by that?
Just understanding, hey, we went in with a plan. We went in really focusing on a week of preparation, detailing up that week of preparation. And then, regardless of the why, identifying the why, being able to have the conversations about what took place, and then both coaches and players having the accountability and the ownership of it to fix it. And we were clearly able to do that during that football game to mount the momentum needed to try to come back in that game. But want to make sure I wouldn't be doing my job if I wasn't looking at it from a big picture standpoint of what not only I can do better for our team, what our staff can do better, and then how do we continue to get these players across our entire football team feeling prepared for the game. That's one thing, but then able to go out and execute early on and sustain early on in football games to play the way we're capable of playing for 4 quarters.
Ben, and then Alec.
Yeah, Kevin, wanted to ask you about Dalvin Cook. He was split out wide on a couple of those catches in the second half, and noticed he's been kind of on the wing a couple times to chip off the line of scrimmage. When you first started thinking about his role, I guess, where did the idea come from to move him around, and how much can that be a part of his fit going forward?
Yeah, I mean, really in that circumstance, I could generate a way of throwing. I think back to the screen that he was able to score on. That was aligning him in a formation where that's going to be his play, and then who's going to be those guys springing those blocks out in front of him, whether it's Adam out on the corner, KJ in the slot, Christian Darrisaw and Ezra Cleveland getting out, at a pretty premier level right there. To see that type of execution in that moment, that's kind of what I'm alluding to as far as I want to see that from our whole team, what the level of execution we had in that one play. But going back to Dalvin, I just think he's got first and foremost, he can catch the football. He's dynamic enough to understand the details of route running and his ability to show up in the rhythm and timing for Kirk. And then once he gets the ball in his hands, Ben, if there's space and there's ability to make something after the catch, he's a dynamic guy with the football in his hands. So when we can do that, whether it is a screen, out to the perimeter, he caught another halfback screen that we had one of our best executed screens in a while on a play action screen from the backfield. And then he was able to make a play kind of when we sent 4 guys vertical and he's kind of screaming underneath the formation, catching, getting north, and then not only getting north, then splitting 2 and getting 3 or 4 more yards with good ball security, which we knew after, that early hiccup of putting the ball on the ground, Dalvin was going to be great the rest of the day with that ball security. So I think it's his ability to just impact the game. He's one of our 5 eligibles that we want to have come to life every time we're able to drop back. And I think being able to split him out, Ben, means we're in more than likely empty formations, and that requires those offensive linemen to give to Kirk the time needed against the front that, quite honestly, has caused a lot of problems this year, whether you look at those edges with those good rushers they have, or 99 and 90 being able to push it and affect the game inside. So a lot of credit to our guys up front to sustain throughout that second half.
Hey, Kevin. You've talked a lot this year and mentioned it at times, just momentum and the importance of it for your team. I wondered, like, who in your career, what moments, games in your career kind of cemented for you the importance of grabbing the momentum and maintaining it through games?
Yeah, I think, it goes a lot of different ways, Alec, because you can look at it like, hey, complementary football is a cliche thing that gets thrown out a lot, but really what that is each phase sustaining the momentum by, just doing their part to contribute to the next phase. And that might be special teams. We do not want to have blocked punts for touchdowns. We do not want to have offensively. We don't want to have a 40-yard run and then have another 6-yard run after that we put the ball on the ground. We don't want to, defensively give up yardage and plays that then put the onus on the other phases. It's the momentum is, in my mind, that I've learned from a lot of great coaches and players for that matter. It's just clean execution throughout and not needing one particular side or 2 of the 3 to carry the weight for the day. Although sometimes that tends to happen with the matchup league we play in and the strengths of some of the teams that we play. And you got to overcome those things. But I do think that there's something to be said for when we started playing better on offense in the second half. The defense started to get stops, and then special teams flew down on one of those kickoffs and pinned them down there deep. And, we get it just seems to play off of each other when you are a tight, close-knit group that does really care about one another and you care about the overall outcome of what we do together. I think you see those guys play off of the energy of one another.
3 to close, Matthew, Will, and then Dave.
Hey, Kevin, just with clinching the playoff spot, the division, but also seeding to still play for, knowing how important health is going into the playoffs, just wondering what your thoughts are on balancing that, wanting to win these games, obviously, but also knowing that you need all of these guys for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think, we're still, as I haven't had a chance to tell the team quite yet, but we're still on the hunt for improvement and continuing to get better as a team. And so I think to do that, you do have to play football across the board, but that does not mean that snap counts don't need to be monitored, or we'll take a look at each individual situation to make sure the priority is having a healthy team and having the best possible version of our team when we do get to the playoffs. Now that we'll at least be there. But I think there's a lot to still actively chase from a standpoint of week in and week out, from a preparation standpoint to understanding what the result may mean for potential seeding. Maybe another, if you're able to get through that first round, the opportunity to maybe host another playoff game. I think our fans, as great as they have been all season, we should try to be hunting, playing as many home games as we possibly can, just because not only they deserve it, but it also is an incredible home atmosphere and advantage for us when it comes time to try to start winning one game a week, however, by any means necessary. So we'll take a look at the whole thing. We'll make sure that the guys that have bumps and bruises and played a lot of snaps, we do have some of those guys that we're finding ways to not only give them some time here and there, but also the development of the players that maybe we're excited to see continue grow behind those guys.
Hey, Kevin, Kirk has kind of talked about the way he's wired is just to go to the next play and try to execute that. How much did his kind of play-to-play steadiness and maybe some experience he's had with previous comebacks help you guys pull that off on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I think he did a great job of that, especially when you think about he was under duress on some early third downs and trying to make quick decisions while not not holding on to the football. What I thought he did a great job of is just understanding the necessity of making some plays there in the second half, where he either stood in there or maybe moved within that pocket, to create the chance to generate another completion, getting back to his third or fourth progression. And then when he was able to generate some of those explosives down the field, just having an awareness of coverage. And although he treated each snap as its own, I thought he did a great job using the previous snaps and intel that he could receive throughout the game to apply it to the next snap, while then playing it, snap to snap. So it's that good balance veteran quarterbacks can do. And I think Kirk's done a great job with that throughout the season. And that's what's really allowed him to be aggressive in those critical end of game moments where you're trying to chase down a lead. He's been great with that this year.
Hey, Kevin, real quick, I was just wondering how Jefferson came out of the game with that rib chest thing, and if there's anybody else who might have to be limited or held out of practice this week.
Yeah, Justin came out strong, really well actually. We had him in yesterday, and he's he surprisingly, he did take some shots in that game, and once again, I think it was about the 5th or 6th week in a row he took a type of hit that drew a flag. Clearly there's an emphasis on the teams we're playing that some of those hits, they don't just seem to be by accident at times. But Justin came out great. He should be good throughout the week. Cam Dantzler was able to fight through that illness and be available to us. But he was really, minute to minute leading up to that game. So hopefully we get him a full week of practice and get him really fully back in the mix. And then most of our other guys came out pretty clean. Eric Kendricks did sustain kind of a lower leg, kind of hip contusion that could leave him sore for a couple days. We'll see how he turns over throughout the week. But, hoping for the most part, even though it was a game where offensively we had to play 93 snaps, defensive we're on the field a ton, to try to get that done, even with extra football, between the type of win that it was and then the snap counts that we were looking at in the game. It's going to be a challenge for us to make sure we're at our best against a really good football team on Saturday coming in.
Kevin, do you think you could get Garrett back this week?
We'll see how he does. It's really just been a matter of, the unique nature of lower back injuries. Sometimes it's hard to really predict. But I know he's doing everything in his power to try to get back, and hopefully it'll be a bonus for us when we can get him back in there. But thought Austin Schlottman played a really good game, kind of filling in for Garrett the other day.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, guys.